do this again. All right, so let's talk about defect lifecycle. So we log the defect, right? You see the statuses, look at the statuses. So right now, so this is default statuses. We have to change that, right? Right now, the statuses here to do, for review, in progress, not assigned, done. These statuses are not very realistic, but it can get the job done. So I log this defect now, right? What do you think my status should be? I think I presented a document earlier. So we're in the defect lifecycle, right? So when you log a defect, again, guys, I'm repeating this over and over again, nothing is standardized. Each company can work differently. Every company works differently, but these are the most relevant statuses. When you log a defect, just like we did, the status would be new, right? You see, but here is a different status. Ignore this, we'll fix it according to the defect lifecycle. So when you log a defect, the status would be new. And when I log it, you guys saw like automatic assignee. So there could be, let's say, you know, Fatima is a developer. I assign this ticket to her. Right now, she's going to get an email notification just now because I assign it to her. And she's going to open it. Then once she opens it, the status will change to open, right? So she let's assume she's developer lead. She's going to open it, look into it, and assign it to the appropriate developer. And when she assigns it, the status will change to assign. That developer will work on the defect, and once that defect is fixed, he's going to change the status to fix and send it back to you as a QA. He's gonna fix it and send it to you. Say, hey, you know, I fixed the bug. I changed the status to fix. Can you verify it? Now you're gonna work on it, and you're gonna change the status. And if it looks good, everything you think is working perfectly, you're gonna change the status to verify it, and then you're gonna close it, right? You're gonna change the status to verify it and then close it, right? Now, when he fixes it, right, and he assigns it to you, and you think, so this is first workflow is the happy path. First workflow, assuming everything working as expected, from new, it's going to move to open, then assign, fixed, verified, and closed, happy path, right? Now, when he fixes it here and say, hey, I fixed it, please retest it. When he fixes it, this is, you know, like I always mention, each testing here has its own purpose, right? When he fixed that bug, what kind of testing will you perform from this list? Who
Sanity testing.
That's disappointing, Jamil.
Retesting.
Retesting, right? Retesting. What is the definition of retesting?
When the developer fixed a bug and send it to the QA, so that's when, I mean, the QA does the retesting. So to make sure
exactly, that right. So now when he fixes it, you're going to be performing retesting. Your first testing would be retesting. And now if that bug, let's say if that bug caused some other issue to that application, let's say when you're going to, when you're at work, right, you know, you're going to be logging so many bugs, right? Now, you wouldn't have time, you wouldn't have enough time to ask them, hey, you fix this bug, what is the impacted area of this bug? You would not have time for that. But at the very end of release, or if there is a issue in production, suddenly came across and they fixed that issue. Now, okay, so when there is an issue in production, or if there is you're at the very end of your release and you're about to go to production, you're about to sign off your product. Now they've fixed some bugs. Now you're going to go to them and ask them, hey, you know, we have tested the entire application, but this bug came up recently, and I know you fixed that bug, but I want to know what are the impacted areas. Because obviously at that point, you don't have enough time to do entire regression testing. Or if you're working in production, you would not be able to do entire regression testing. This is when you're going to be performing sanity testing on the impacted areas. And you guys know what is the definition of sanity testing. Sanity testing is a minor version of regression testing where, you know, after any modification done in that application, you test on the impacted areas, basically, right? So, okay, so we were talking about, um, we were talking about this. Any questions, guys, so far?
So regression testing is the very last testing, and before that we do a sanity testing, or the sanity testing come after regression testing?
Sanity testing could happen at any time, but usually it happens in a situation where you cannot perform, or you don't want to perform the entire regression testing, because regression is a huge testing. You have to perform testing on each component of that application. So now it's very hard to go into each and every part of that application and perform testing. Right now, you won't be able to visualize it because you are not in the industry or in that field yet. You may think, oh, I'm just going to navigate through the application and my testing is done. No, it's a lot that you need to do, right? So regression, it happens at the end, and regression happens in right before you sign off the application. But sanity testing, let's say, like I mentioned before, there could be two scenarios. Let's say you finish your regression testing and you're just doing some random testing, or someone else, and they found an issue. Now developers fix that issue. You're not going to go back and do the entire regression again, because some cases, if you're doing regression testing, it takes 3 days. If you're doing it manually, it literally takes 3 days. Now, if you're doing it with automation testing, it could happen, you could, perform this in 2 hours, but not every company has.
Your mic turned off.
How about now?
Yeah, good.
I'm sorry, I think I pressed the mute button. So I was saying that so regression, if you're doing it with automation testing, you could cover it in 2 hours. But if you're doing it manually, you may need 3 days to cover regression. And it happened to me in my last project. So you cannot perform regression again because you just completed regression and there is 1 bug or 2 bugs that they found, and developers fix it. In that scenario, after fixing those bugs, you're going to perform retesting. Once the retesting is done, you're going to ask the developers, hey, I know you touched the code, you fixed this issue. What are the impacted areas? In some cases, they're going to tell you upfront, hey, can you please test these areas? We think that those are impacted areas of this fixes. So this is where you're going to perform sanity testing. Another case, in production, there are issues. You are always going to see some issues in production. Doesn't matter how good of a tester you are. Doesn't matter how many testers are testing. Here and there, customers will find some issues. There is going to be some issues. So when they fix that issue in production, you will not perform the entire regression testing unless if your regression suites are automated fully, and you can perform regression testing, but ideally you are only supposed to perform sanity testing in the impacted areas, because developers has the code sitting in organized manner. They know which part of the application's code they touch. They will not touch each and every component of that code. Their codes are segregated by component. So the areas of code they would touch, they will let you know. Does it make sense? Was it Ashfaq?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, right now I understood.
Okay, cool. So guys, so we were talking about happy path. Do we understand the happy path? The workflow of the happy path. When you log a bug, the status will be new. Then it's going to be open when developer's lead opens it. Then when he or she assigns it to the appropriate developer, the status will change to assign. And then when that developer fixes that bug, it will change, the status will change to fix. And then when you verify it, you will change the status to verified and closed. And now let's say when they fix it and ask you to retest it and you think it's not fixed, what would you do?
Reopen it.
You will reopen it. and the life cycle starts again. So you'll reopen it, assign it back to the same guy, and then he's going to fix it again. You will retest it again, and if you feel it's fixed, then you're going to verify it and close. If you still feel that it's not fixed, you're going to reopen it again, assign it to him, and he's going to fix it, assign it back to you, and then you're going to verify it and you're going to close it.
One question real quick. So the case is going to stay the same. So it's going to require as many times as needed to fix the issue. It's going to keep cycling.
Yeah.
And then
but usually, they fix it the first time, or sometimes, like, there might be some issues. It doesn't go back and forth too many times.
Is there any times where it's not fixed, or
yeah, always
the backlog, something like that?
Yeah, there's so many times, they think they fix it, but you think it's not fixed. Or if you're talking about you log a bug and they don't fix it.
Yeah, you log a bug, they don't fix it.
Purposely, that's what you meant, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, there are whole scenarios that you have to understand. We'll get to it, but let's talk about the rejection and the deferred. Then you'll understand once we do a full project. There is a prioritization process in place. Just because you log a bug, do not assume that's going to be fixed. The bug gets fixed based on the priority. Bug gets fixed based on the importance. Bug gets fixed based on the necessity. So there are different statuses, like I mentioned before, blocker, critical or blocker, or high priority, medium priority, and low priority. The blocker will be fixed immediately as soon as possible, because you're not able to log into the application. You're not able to do any function. So that kind of bug is going to be fixed immediately. A high priority is going to be fixed as soon as possible, in a day or two. Medium could take 4 or 5 days, and low priority may or may not get fixed. So let's talk about this too, and you'll understand a little bit more. So deferred, there is a status called deferred. In deferred status, let's say a bug that you no, let's talk about rejection first, so then you will understand deferred better. So rejected status, like when you log a bug and developers thinks it's not a valid bug, so he's going to reject it and send it back to you and say, hey, if you look at this Jira right here, he can comment here. He can say, hey, you log this bug and I think it's not valid bug. So can you please look into it? And if it's not valid, please close it. And he's going to assign it back to you. So this is what he's going to do, right? If he thinks it's not valid. Now, if you think that, he rejected this bug, but still you think that is a valid bug, he thinks it's not a valid bug and you think it's a valid bug, what would you do in that scenario? And it happens a lot. Developers think, hey, it's working fine, and this is an interview question. It's a tricky question as well. What do you guys think? What would you do? You think it's a valid bug, developers think it's not a valid bug, he rejected it.
Contact BA.
Would you take it to the lead, the program lead, or?
Okay. Yeah, eventually, but initially you would ask for clarification why he thinks it's not a valid bug. You can ask him for more details. Please provide me more details, because clearly I think it's a bug and you think it's not a bug. Please provide more details. So once you provide more details, you're going to look through the requirement and look into it and see if it makes sense. If it makes sense what he's saying, right? And you think, you agree with him, you can simply close it but you provide some comment there saying, yeah, I see your point and I think it's in the requirement, the functionality is working as expected. You can close that bug. Now, if you think after him providing that more details, you still think is a valid bug, you provide your details, whatever your point of view and the details to him. And if he still rejects it, that's when you bring it up to the business analyst. Say, hey, I logged this bug. I think this is a valid bug. And developers is not agreeing with me. I want your input. right? And how you're going to do that? Same thing here, right? You're going to put the comment, you're going to assign this ticket to right here, right? So whoever is developer, let's say Amzad is developer, you're going to assign it to Amzad and write a comment here saying, hey, Amzad, I want your opinion on this one because I logged this bug and I think it's a valid bug. Developers think is not a valid bug. Can you please provide your input? Now, if that developer comes back and say, hey, this, I'm not worried about this bug. Can you please close it? Feel free to close it, not an issue. But the developer, the business analyst has their input there. So in the future, if they come back to you and say, hey, why this functionality is not working, you can say, hey, I log a bug and you told me to close it, right? Pretty much you want to document everything to make sure that you're covered. So that's one reason there could be a rejection of your bug. Another reason, let's say 5 QA is working and someone else already logged this bug and you log the same bug, a developer will reject it. Ideally, you really want to check that you're not logging a duplicate bug. But when there is a duplicacy, they will reject it. In that case, you'd have to close that bug. Is the rejected status clear now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So deferred. Now, deferred status, like let's say when you log a bug, when you find a bug in the application, you log the bug, but the bug is minor. It's not impacting major functionality of the application, and the bug status is as a minor status bug. In that case, business analyst or the product owner can move that bug out of the current release. They can say, hey, there's a valid bug. We do not want to fix this bug in this release. We'll fix it in the future release. So in most cases, low priority bugs, in some cases, medium priority bugs are usually gets deferred from that release. So that's pretty much defect lifecycle, guys. It's very important and crucial things for you guys to understand. What do you think? Does it make sense? Was I able to explain?
Yeah, that was good.
Any questions, guys?
So to sum it up, so it could be rejected due to it already being solved, or there's a duplicacy, or